Hi there everybody, Dave here from HeyUGuys, and today I'm joined by three wonderful people in the form of Stefanovic Papovic.
Hello there.
Zehra Phelan.
Hello.
And Scotticus J. Davididus.
Hello, every time.
Hello. And today we will be talking about Wonder Woman. Stefan, go for it.
Alright, Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot. I love saying that name out loud. It just sounds so good every time. She's the princess of the Amazons. She grew up learning how to fight amongst various other women on a very kind of idyllic, kind of exotic island in the middle of fantasy world. And then Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine, somehow manages to wind up at her sort of sheltered paradise. And she realizes that all of her kind of life's lessons and all of the kind of training that she's been putting in across her life can be best utilized elsewhere. So she goes back with Steve, to the UK because it's during World War One, and she tries to lend a hand to the soldiers fighting against the Germans. And the main kind of endeavor for them is to stop Dr. Poison, played by Eleanor Anaya, who is planning on releasing this gas which could kill millions of people. And it's up to Wonder Woman to save the world.
So Wonder Woman was in Batman vs Superman, first and foremost. She appears in the ridiculously over-the-top finale with Doomsday, Batman and Superman. That's the first time she's ever been on the big screen. She's been on the TV screens in the 70s, of course, played by Linda Carter. And then there was a very, very big failed TV show in, I think, about 2010 that was so bad that they didn't air the pilot and have never aired the pilot, which had Elizabeth Hurley as the villain.
I didn't know that.
So there you go. Yeah, it was. They buried it because it was really, really bad. I think you can watch it online somewhere, but the studio, whoever it was so bad that they buried it. But yeah, Gal Gadot's first appearance was in Batman vs Superman.
Indeed. So I've not seen this film yet, but you three have. Zehra, what do you think?
I did actually really, really like it, and it shows obviously women in a better light than they're normally shown. But I wasn't completely blown away by it, to be honest.
Why?
It still lacks that humour. I know everybody's saying that it's really witty, but I didn't really think it was.
Stefan, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was. I agree. I don't think it was that witty, but I think that what I thought it had a kind of sense of adventure, though, which I felt was lacking in Batman v Superman. And then in Suicide Squad, because they realised that so many people have called Batman v Superman too sort of serious, it was so contrived how sort of playful they tried to make it. Actually backfired quite tremendously. I think this actually gets that tone much better, which it's playful and it is adventurous, but not to a point where it's not like kind of Deadpool or Ant-Man or anything. But I don't think it's going for that. I think it's actually, and also I think due to the kind of setting of World War One, the fact that it's tied in so much with a real war where there were so many real casualties, I think it has to walk that line where it does need to be a bit more kind of poignant in parts. It can't just be some big kind of comedic endeavor. So I actually thought that it got that bit quite good. But I thought the moment that I did really enjoy that was slightly kind of witty was I just loved it when Wonder Woman came to Earth for the first time, and it's almost like Elf, because she can't kind of, everything is kind of new to her. When Elf is, when Will Ferrell's on the kind of escalators going up and stuff like that, and he doesn't quite know how humanity works. It's got that feel to it just for a brief period. But actually I think the fact Wonder Woman coming to Earth and seeing humanity with quite a sort of blissful, quite naive perspective actually is what makes this film such a good feminist movie, I think, because she can't comprehend why women aren't allowed on the battlefield, why they're not allowed in the offices to make big decisions when it comes to the war, because she's lived amongst very powerful, very empowering women. So that I really felt that was a nice way of making this the very kind of feminist movie without ever kind of forcing a message or anything. It's just her, you kind of adopt her perspective where she just doesn't understand it, which really for me shows just how kind of absurd kind of the society was back in those days.
And obviously film directed by Patty Jenkins, who is a lady, which is wonderful to see.
I think actually I read a report this morning that Patty Jenkins actually did some work on the script herself, but she doesn't get a writing credit. But Charles Roven spoke about why she didn't get a writing credit. So I think she's had quite a lot of influence over this. But I think it's a bit of both. I think it's great that she's done it. I think it was important for a woman to direct this movie. And also, in terms of spectacle and everything else, she's pretty much shown up for all the blokes in, you know, some of the set pieces that she's done. And as Stefan said, the handling of the adventure side of it, the war side of it, the romantic side of it, and everything, she's pretty much done a fantastic job. And I think she deserves all the credit for it, because, you know, I think after Batman, Superman, and Suicide Squad, everyone was getting very. I think they'd kind of given up with the DCEU, and for this to not only be good but to hit as well as it has had and had the reviews that it's had, I think is fantastic. And now hopefully the box office will reflect that. But it's about time that this stuff happened, that female directors were getting a chance to make not only make big movies but make big movies the way they want to make them. And I think that's important. I think she's done a great job with this.
And obviously Chris Pine's in this movie from, you know, Star Trek fame and various other things. He seems to be. I struggle with him a little bit as an actor. He was obviously Jack Ryan as well, and I struggle with him as a lead. What's he like in this character?
I actually think he's quite good. I mean, he's charismatic, and I think, but he works. I mean, don't get me wrong, he is obviously the sort of co-lead, I suppose. But this movie is so much Gal Gadot's film that I think he hasn't got that kind of emotional kind of burden or responsibility necessarily. I mean, he is kind of. It's not as much of a two-hander as I think it might make out. It might sort of appear to be in the trailers and stuff. But I think he does a good job of it. I think that he's just, if there's one thing you can say about him, is he's a very sort of accomplished actor who's very rarely kind of lets you down. But I actually really like him in Star Trek, so I think you're wrong, Dave.
Zehra, for you, who was the standout performer? Was it Gal, or did, you know, who were the other sort of standout performers? Because I know Robin Wright's in this film. We've not mentioned her yet.
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about Robin Wright, and I'd actually like to see her. She plays her aunt. She's an Amazonian general, and she trains her up from childhood. And I think she should have had a bigger part, or maybe have a spin-off coming out of that around that her character. She was a really strong female lead as well.
And Scott, Danny Huston as well. How did he fare?
I wasn't a huge fan of him in this, nor was I a huge fan of David Thewlis. I think they weren't given particularly too much to do, apart from just be Danny Huston's case anyway. Be the big bad, which he's done many times before. Thought it was a bit, you know, same with these things. The villain's always a little bit bland, and I thought he was in this. But actually, I would say, you know, I think Gal Gadot is great, but I would say I'm going off of what Stefan said. I thought Chris Pine was the best thing in this. If I'm honest, in terms of, I personally thought the film wouldn't have worked the way it does without him, because I think he balances everything fantastically well with the fish out of water stuff with Gal Gadot's character and introducing her into Earth and everything else. But also he has that, as Stefan said, he's very accomplished, but he has that playfulness about him that he brought to Kirk as well, which I thought he was great in as well. But I think the movie works very, very well because of his performance. So I would say he's the stand-up performance. Robin Wright's really good as well, as is Colin Nielsen. Don't remember the last time I saw her in a big-ish movie for a while, but she's very, very good as well. As is Ewan Bremner.
Yeah,
Ewan Bremner's in there as well.
I've spotted him in a couple. I didn't even know he was in it until just going through these photos and seeing him in the background a couple of times. But he's obviously famous for Train Spotting, and he was him and 4 million other people were in things like Black Hawk Down, but he always plays that same sort of character. Is he the same sort of cheeky chappy in this as he is in the other films that we've seen him in?
Yeah, he's just Ewan Bremner in this. He's just exactly as you know and obviously love him. He's just exactly the same. He has one quite poignant moment actually, which I thought he played quite well. But he's the usual kind of cheeky chappy in this. But there's a little bit of weight behind the character in this one, in terms of, you know, he's obviously been part of the war for a long time, and it's starting to affect his kind of, you know, his thoughts and everything else. So he was good. And also, as Stefan will agree, we saw Dawn Tinsley, receptionist, as part of this as well. She was quite good. She's not in it a lot, obviously. Yeah, she's not in it a lot.
She's Jess McCara's daughter, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
Interesting factor. And am I right in saying the invisible plane doesn't feature?
Well, I didn't see it.
Sad times.
Hey.
Maybe it was. It could have been in the film the whole time. I don't know.
Every scene.
Yeah.
Little did we know. But I've read somewhere that it might appear in sort of the Wonder Woman sequel. Zehra, you didn't seem as sold on it as the boys did. Or are you a 3 stars or?
No, I'm still giving it 4 stars because I think it's quite fresh to have, you know, that female lead for once, and seeing the men lose their egos and bravado to a woman.
Yeah, I went for 4 as well. I mean, I felt that I agree with that. It's great to have a female lead, but I mean that's not why I'd sort of giving it 4 stars. I'm giving it 4 stars because it's just a really great blockbuster as well. And I think that it's just a real masterclass in storytelling from Patty Jenkins, because so many things to try and get right with because I mean there was an even initial apprehension with the fact that they were obviously potentially kind of rewriting history, because Wonder Woman thinks that Ares, the god of war, is behind the First World War, whereas obviously that almost absolves the actual human villains of kind of any blame. And I was kind of thinking how they're going to handle this, but to have a kind of a romance, a war, the Greek mythology in there, and then still not compromise on any of the action sequences and be so human the whole time. I thought it was such a great piece of direction. I think that's what stands out more than anything else in this movie. And I think I went 4. I toyed with 5 because I think you could almost argue it's a 5-star blockbuster but a 4-star film, if that makes any sense. But I went for 4 because that's just what I went for, innit?
And Scott, you mentioned earlier about Batman Superman, but does this one sort of link nicely in with the rest of the Justice League franchise, and sort of, don't say how it ends obviously, but does it lead into future movies?
It's bookended by a very small nod to Batman Superman. That is it. Apart from that, it is all unto itself, which is strange in the sense that I think now looking back in hindsight, I think a few people said this on Twitter, that this maybe should have been one of the first films before, obviously the way that they've done it is perhaps the kind of the wrong way around. They've done it a bit cack-handedly, but it would have worked quite well as like the first or second movie in the universe. But in terms of the canon at the moment, there's literally a bookended thing involving an email. That's it. There's no spoilers in there because it's essentially, if you've seen Batman Superman, you've seen what the little bit that she alludes to, but it's minutes, if that. Everything else is completely on its own.
And are there post-credit sequences?
There's not any post-credit sequences, at least in the screening that I was. Again, that they've been very, very smart, I think, in the sense that they've kept it to itself. This isn't a stepping stone into the Justice League. This isn't a stepping stone into another Batman movie or a Batman Superman movie or whatever. This is a Wonder Woman film, and it's just linked in very, 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 very tiny portion. I think that was the right way to go.
Awesome. So it sounds like this could be the best in the DC movies for a while, since the Batman trilogy. Would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably the best since The Dark Knight. I say that, I mean, but that feels like faint praise, really, doesn't it? Because what's that? Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad.
Or do you mean Dark Knight Rises?
No, I think I might prefer this to Dark Knight Rises, but maybe that's because The Dark Knight Rises I was only ever comparing to The Dark Knight, which when it wasn't as good. So maybe as a standalone film, Dark Knight Rises might still be a better movie, but this is definitely the best since then. But again, I mean, it's not a huge amount of competition, but I'd be surprised if there's a better DC movie than this in the next 2 or 3 or 4. So hopefully it might not sound so great now, but maybe in 5 years we'll go, God, the last great film they made was Wonder Woman, and then that will sound better, maybe.
There is a part in there which I think will appeal to the ladies if they want to go and see it, is the naked Chris Pine scene.
Oh, man.
That got me.
Zehra, you've gone there.
I just can't deal with this objectification of men on the screen.
Yeah. Bloody well,
Baywatch and Wonder Woman out the same week and objectifying men all over the place. It's disgraceful.
Chris Pine and Little Kirk. Hey.
As you know why they call him Captain. Anything else? No, I think we're done there.
Scott, what did you think of the movie?
I would agree with Stefan. I would give it quite high praise. I think I enjoyed it more when I came out of the screening. I was talking with our good friend Kassam, and over the course of the evening, I think we both kind of liked the movie more and more, and it kind of settled in our brains. And I think it was fantastic. It echoed one thing Stefan said about the kind of adventure aspect. It echoed a lot of the classic superhero movies, quote unquote, in the sense that it felt like not just like a Indiana Jones ilk, but also it reminisced in my brain of Richard Donner's Superman, in the way that they managed to get all the things that they wanted to get right. They got them spot on, and I thought that was great. And it also had a kind of earnestness of what Batman Begins had, and I thought that was fantastic as well. It's maybe slightly too long, and there's some dodgy CGI in there, but which of these big movies don't suffer from those two things these days? That seems to be always the issues that we get from these big movies. But I would agree also about the DC. This is definitely the best DC movie there's been for a long time, since Dark Knight Rises, I guess. But again, as one thing Stefan said, that's kind of faint praise. I think the first half of Man of Steel is very, very good. The second half is not so much, but I really enjoyed it. It's great fun. Chris Pine's great. Gal Gadot's great. I thought I'd have issues with her, but this is probably the first big movie she's carried in her career, because she's certainly taken little small parts, I think, over the few years she's been going, and she's fantastic. But in terms of the first movie she's had to carry, and this is a pretty big movie to carry as well as a big character to carry, she does fantastically well. And there's Robin Wright's really good. Connie Nielsen's really good. I think across the board they get all the elements right, and I think I said before, a lot of that goes to Patty Patty Jenkins, and she should get all the credit because I think she's done a fantastic job, and she's managed to make a movie that's a part of a studio thing where the studio might have said we want this and this and this, and she's thankfully gone out and said I'm going to make the movie like this, and good on her for making it, and she's made a great summer blockbuster.
And we've got interviews with Gal and various other people that James did out in New York, and she talks about how nervous she was about meeting Linda Carter before the premiere, and then spoke to her again after the film, and Linda loved it, so that's really good. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Do let us know what you think of Wonder Woman when you've seen it. It's out in UK cinemas now. As always, you can subscribe to the usual socials, and let us know in the comments what you think of the movie once you've seen it, and we'll see you next time on MouthOff. Take care. Bye.
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 Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed,
Nice.
Hey